Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. The lives of ancient emperors, empresses, and concubines were filled with ultimate luxury, draped in silk and adorned with jade. Surrounded by countless servants, they stood above all others, seemingly omnipotent. However, even these rulers, residing in their resplendent palaces, could not escape awkward moments when concubines encountered their monthly affairs. After all, in an era without modern sanitary products, how did these women manage their menstrual periods? And what if the emperor happened to summon them on those very days? That would certainly pose a dilemma. But ancient people had their own solutions. With wisdom and ingenuity, they devised unique ways to handle the situation, ensuring the dignity of the concubines while allowing the emperor to discreetly avoid these inconvenient encounters. So, how exactly did concubines navigate these days? And how did emperors handle such unexpected situations? Let's explore this intriguing and highly private topic. Being a concubine in the palace may have seemed glamorous, but behind the splendor lay many difficulties, especially when dealing with menstrual periods. These women not only had to endure physical discomfort but also had to be constantly vigilant, fearing that even the slightest mistake could invite criticism from others in the palace. More importantly, in feudal society, menstruation was often regarded as an inauspicious omen, even believed to affect the emperor's fortune. This was no trivial matter. If a concubine was discovered to have violated taboos, she could, at best, be neglected or, at worst, face severe punishment. Thus, concubines were particularly cautious during these days, taking every possible measure to avoid the emperor's attention. But what if the emperor insisted on summoning a concubine during this time? Should she refuse or comply? This put concubines in a difficult predicament. Refusing outright might anger the emperor, leading to a loss of favor or even banishment to the cold palace. Yet, complying meant facing the stigma of menstrual impurity, and if discovered, the consequences could be just as dire. In such moments, resourceful concubines had to rely on their wit and cunning to navigate the crisis. According to historians, concubines often used subtle strategies to avoid being summoned during their periods. They would arrange for their personal maids to discreetly leak information or seek the help of eunuchs to hint at their unwell condition, making it clear that they were unfit for imperial service. If the emperor was insistent, some concubines would go as far as feigning illness or utilizing court unwritten rules by requesting the imperial physician to prescribe rest, thereby dodging the summons. One famous historical example comes from the reign of Emperor Jing of Han. His favored concubine, Lady Cheng, once found herself in a tricky situation. One evening, Emperor Jing, in high spirits after drinking, suddenly summoned Lady Cheng to his chambers. Unfortunately, she was in the middle of her menstrual period and immediately felt troubled. Refusing could anger the emperor, but complying was impractical. She was caught in a dilemma. However, Lady Cheng was quick-witted and came up with a solution that would both protect herself and satisfy the emperor. She turned to her trusted maidservant, Tang. Tang was not only of similar age to Lady Cheng but also bore a striking resemblance to her. Lady Cheng immediately instructed her attendants to carefully dress Tang up, making her appearance nearly identical to her own. In the dim candlelight, and with the emperor intoxicated, he failed to notice the switch and spent the night with Tang instead. It wasn't until the next morning, when he sobered up, that Emperor Jing realized the mix-up. Surprisingly, instead of being furious, he praised Lady Cheng for her intelligence and resourcefulness. This seemingly risky swap not only allowed Cheng Ji to escape the predicament smoothly but also unexpectedly altered history. The imperial concubine who spent the night with Emperor Jing, Tang, later became pregnant and gave birth to a son, Liu Fa. Although Liu Fa was sent to the distant kingdom of Changsha due to his mother's low status, one of his descendants would go on to change history, the founding emperor of the Eastern Han Dynasty. Lu Xiu, also known as the illustrious Emperor Guangwu. It could be said that Qing Ji's clever decision indirectly extended the Han dynasty's rule by nearly 200 years. When this incident spread throughout the palace, the imperial concubines quickly adopted the same strategy, using Qing Ji's illness as a clever excuse. Whenever they were unable to attend to the emperor, they would cite this reason, which not only allowed them to gracefully decline but also ensured they did not fall out of favor. Qing Ji's intelligence not only protected herself but also paved a wise escape route for the concubines of the imperial harem. Later, in order to avoid similar awkward situations, the Han dynasty palace gradually developed a unique hint system. Newly selected concubines were given a gold ring and a silver ring as part of their ceremonial gifts. Under normal circumstances, they would wear the silver ring on a specific finger of their right hand. However, when they were experiencing their special days, they would discreetly remove the silver ring and replace it with the gold one, worn on their left hand. This method was both simple and ingenious. Palace attendants could immediately understand the signal, and the emperor would also take the hint, avoiding any need to directly mention such a sensitive topic. It was an elegant and effective solution, ensuring mutual understanding while preserving dignity. Beyond the ring signal, Han dynasty concubines also developed another more subtle method, applying extra rouge on their faces. This not only enhanced their beauty but also served as a discreet reminder to the emperor of their special condition, making it a clever two-in-one strategy. Whenever the emperor noticed that a concubine's makeup appeared more vivid than usual, he would tactfully refrain from summoning her without the need for an explicit explanation. This practice preserved the dignity of the concubines while preventing any awkwardness in the imperial court. A more open approach in the Tang dynasty. With the passage of time and the flourishing cultural and intellectual climate of the Tang dynasty, concubines' methods of dealing with their menstrual cycles became more open and direct, while some of the traditional signaling techniques remained in use. Tang dynasty concubines adopted a notably more straightforward approach. If the emperor failed to notice their subtle hints and still summoned them, they would take a proactive measure, writing secret notes. These apology letters typically had two parts. First, they would express gratitude for the emperor's favor with great respect, and then they would tactfully explain why they were unfit to attend to him. These letters were carefully worded, demonstrating the concubine's deference while subtly conveying her predicament. Interestingly, upon receiving such a note, the emperor would not be angered. Instead, he would often reward the concubine with nourishing supplements as a gesture of concern. Over time, this practice became widely adopted within the palace, evolving into an unofficial leave request system unique to Tang dynasty concubines. The emergence of this tradition not only reflected the era's relative openness but also highlighted the more humane relationships within the imperial court. Creative signals in the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period. During the politically turbulent 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period, concubines devised increasingly imaginative ways to communicate their special circumstances to the emperor. One of the most distinctive methods was the use of red lanterns. Whenever a concubine was menstruating, a red lantern would be hung outside her palace quarters. This highly visible signal ensured that the emperor could immediately recognize the situation and also served as a reminder to eunuchs and palace maids to avoid unnecessary disturbances. The strict palace regulations of the Ming and Qing dynasties. By the Ming and Qing dynasties, absolute monarchy had reached its peak, and palace regulations became increasingly rigid and complex. To standardize the scheduling of concubines' attendance, the imperial court established a dedicated management institution, the Jingshi office. The Jingshi office was managed by eunuchs who were responsible for recording and scheduling the concubines' attendance for the emperor. Every concubine had her own exclusive green-headed card that displayed her identity information. Each night before the emperor visited a concubine, the eunuchs would present these cards for his selection. If a concubine was on her period or feeling unwell, she simply needed to notify the Jingshi office, and the responsible eunuch would remove her card to avoid any awkwardness. This systematized management not only reduced the pressure on the concubines but also made the emperor's selection process more orderly. However, wherever there is a system, there is room for manipulation. In an effort to win the emperor's favor, concubines in the harem began bribing the eunuchs in the Jingshi office, hoping that their cards would be placed in a prominent position. Meanwhile, those without influential backgrounds or sufficient wealth might be neglected for long periods. Some concubines even went so far as to bribe eunuchs to deliberately suppress their rivals by having the competitors' cards removed or relegated to the least noticeable spot. This behind-the-scenes maneuvering intensified the competition for favor within the harem and made the power of the Jingshi office both subtle and complex. Despite these issues, the establishment of the Jingshi office was still a major advancement in palace management. It not only provided a rational solution for dealing with the concubines' special circumstances, but also reflected the increasingly institutionalized and refined trends in court management during the Ming and Qing dynasties. According to historians, from the Han dynasty's ring hint method to the Tang dynasty's secret letter communication, then to the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms red lantern display, and finally to the Ming and Qing periods Jingshi office management. Ancient concubines demonstrated extraordinary wit and adaptability in handling the sensitive issue of menstruation. Today, when we look back on this history, we should cherish the current environment of gender equality even more, and continue to promote social progress so that women have more choices and receive greater respect. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.